Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. A man that has mastered comedy, TV and film. Warwick Davis is one of the most popular personalities on television in 2016. And he's about to star in the pantomime. This coming Christmas, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs will take to the stage at the fabulous New Victoria Theatre in Woking. And I'm delighted to say he joins us on the phone now. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Do you know, it must be great to be you because you've got so many jobs in the business, in so many different sectors of the business. That's what we all dream of, really.
Well, yeah, it is good. It's great to be busy and also doing such a variety of different things. It's safe to say I've never sort of been pigeonholed in my career. I'm always asked to do something different every day. And it's really exciting. I mean, it's a bit of a learning curve though, because I have to sort of take on new skills all the time to try and keep up with the demands. But it's great, as you say. You know, it's I should appreciate the fact that I'm working, because for many actors, you know, it's not always the case, and I've certainly experienced that in my career at times as well.
I don't think it's ever been tougher in show business, has it? And you've got to have that sort of multi-skill to do different genres. What are you? Do you consider yourself an actor or a comedian or a presenter or all of the above?
I don't know. I mean, I'm an actor. That was my first love. That's how I started in this business 35 years ago. And it's always a joy when I'm asked to do an acting role once again, you know, and that really, I really feel at home doing that. It feels like that's where my roots are. But I mean, I suppose I'm an entertainer in a broader sense, really. I mean, some people do say I'm a comedian, you know, others an actor, quiz show host, a documentary author. There's so many different things that I do. And I suppose you're thought of how you're thought of to different people depending on what they've seen you in.
How's life in your mid-40s? I guess for most people, you sort of spend your 20s trying to prove yourself, your 30s you find who you are, and then the 40s you can sit back and enjoy it. It seems to me you've got an extraordinary private life and professional career. That's sort of living the dream, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to maintain that work-life balance, and it is hard to do because, you know, it's not like I go to an office every day and I work from 9 till 5 and then I come home again and I kind of leave that all behind. This is a profession that is with you 24 hours a day, and even when you think you're, you know, in your own time, you're really not, because if you go out to a restaurant or you're traveling on the train somewhere, you are constantly recognised and you're essentially at work. So the only time that I really feel like I'm having time off is when I'm at home and then I'm not in my office, you know, and that's the only point where I feel like I'm really kind of off duty, as it were. But again, it's kind of part and parcel of, I suppose, not what I signed up for 35 years ago, because I never understood at that point what it was going to lead on to when I started in film acting. But nonetheless, you kind of grow to understand that's what it is all about, and again, should be very grateful for that.
Can you ever remember the period of your life when you weren't famous? I mean, we look back to the early part of your career, 82 at 12 years old. That's a pretty remarkable age to be a star in a multi-international film.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate to be cast through radio, actually, in Return of the Jedi, the third Star Wars film. I played Wicket the Ewok, and I mean, it wasn't instant sort of recognition and fame. You know, it was lovely to have a part in what at the time and still is one of the biggest films of all time, and it was an absolute joy for me doing it, but I didn't really comprehend at the time what it meant on a wider scale, really. It was just, you know, exciting to be in a Star Wars movie, and that was that. And, you know, I wasn't recognised because I was hidden behind, you know, a furry costume as the character. And many of my early roles, you know, up to sort of 87, were exactly like that. I was hidden, so it was reported on that this young chap was playing these characters, but I didn't sort of receive any recognition as such in that regard. But it's only been really in the last sort of 10 years when people start to know me, and it was since doing It Is Abroad, I suppose. People watched that series where I travelled the world with Karl Pilkington, and started to kind of know me a little bit more, and then I became more recognisable, and that's when all of the other kind of work, the kind of quiz show hosting and documentary work that I've done since, kind of, it all came from that. And then also Life's Too Short was was also coming out around about the same time. So I instantly became recognisable, and it's hard now to disguise myself. I've tried moustaches, dark glasses, but it just draws more attention to me, really. So I've given up on that, and I just kind of accept that I will indeed have probably about 100 selfies taken, per day, and it's a nice way to visually track my life. It's a visual diary of my world. Is on Twitter, which is no problem at all.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was just looking at your account, and there are a few logistical issues with being you. I noticed you were at the football very recently. That can be a problem if you got a 6-foot fella sat in front of you.
Yeah, it doesn't go down that well. I mean, pop concerts and all that sort of thing. Really, it's tricky because people love to stand up, and they're either cheering on the team or they're dancing to the music, which is what you do at these things. But for me, it's kind of it's a bit tricky. At the end of a show, you go to a London show and everyone's on your feet for the last number, and I don't ever see the last number of a show. I
guess you're just looking at a load of people's arses, are you? Is that
well, exactly? Yeah. I mean, but depending on where it is, it might be all right, but it's it's not really a way to finish something particularly, but it's par for the course. I accept that, and that's what it is. It's sometimes moving out into the aisle, or you might make an early getaway before the crowds. So.
I love as well how on Twitter you address people who have questions, because you could become very awkward about your condition and your life, but you're very open. And I loved how somebody said, is it okay to say dwarf anymore? And you say, of course it is. That's the name of what I've got. I think that's very brave of you, because it'd be easy to sort of get all embarrassed and silly about it.
No, I mean, I think very early on in my life, I had fully accepted, who I was physically, and that was due to my mum and dad really instilling this kind of great self-image, this positive self-image in me, and so I looked at myself in a very positive way, and had fully accepted that I was a little person, and that made me unique, and I should actually embrace that uniqueness, in the same way that people dye their hair or have tattoos or piercings in order to differentiate themselves from the rest of society in some way, and that's kind of that's already built into me, that uniqueness. And if you embrace that and accept that, then indeed you'll feel very comfortable making that part of, initially that was the only reason I became an actor, because I was 2'11" at that time. But you have to embrace, you have to accept that. And if I can then use that then to educate people, to kind of make them understand that, indeed dwarfism is a condition, it makes us different because we're shorter than average, but nonetheless we still think the same things, we feel the same feelings, we have the same needs, desires, hopes as everyone else does. Then I think through that comes understanding and then acceptance, which is very important in today's society.
Well, and of course I feel your pain. I'm ginger, I've got no sympathy for you. Imagine walking around looking like me. Do you ever get upset about this nonsense? I mean, you're in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I see some theatres getting in a huge pickle about the fact they're not using dwarves, they're using men who sit on their knees. Isn't this just ridiculous?
Well, it is an interesting topic, and it does kind of come up every year when we get to Panto season, and some productions will give the reason that they're not using short actors, people with dwarfism, is because it's more expensive and budgets and things, but then they'll still charge the same price for the tickets,
right?
So the money's got to go somewhere. I mean, others say that it's a matter for political correctness, but again, you talk to any audience and they'd much rather have a short actor playing the character, than see, other performers on their knees, etc., etc. So I've always been a supporter of, having really good short actors play these characters. And it's something the producer I work for, First Family, always support, and it makes the show so much better. I mean, the humour has to be performed to be good. I mean, it's there's no question in my mind that it shouldn't be that way. But as long as the laughter's in the right place, these characters should never be laughed at. They should be laughed with, and that's something that is worked out in the script and in the direction and production of the show.
Well, of course, it's totally insulting not to cast It's also totally insulting not to cast a short person because you feel it would be offensive on their behalf. Let them decide. It seems reverse sort of tokenism to me not to put someone in who'd be happy to do it. Bizarre.
No, that's right. And there are actors there. It's not like that we're short of, pardon the pun, of short actors to play these roles. It's there are people there who are ready and willing, but it's just a matter of whether the production chooses to cast correctly or not.
You'll be playing the Prof in the new Victoria Theatre at Woking this Christmas, and I love these shows. I mean, they are the backbone of theatre. They're huge and grand and done properly these days, and thank God for that, because it is for many people the first chance they'll ever see a big production and probably the only show they'll see in the entire year.
Well, that's right. Pantomime is, for many theatres, is a lifeline. It supports the theatre for the rest of the year when they can have other productions, touring productions coming through. Without pantomime, these theatres would really struggle. And as you say, it's many people's first experience of live theatre, especially youngsters. And I'm really very keen on making sure that we produce the very best show that we can to give them a wonderful experience that they will take with them throughout their lives and love live theatre and support it, continue to support that, not just in pantomime but in other forms of theatre as well, because that's really, really important. Because my first memory of theatre was panto, and I'm sure yours is, and for many people it is, and we have to make sure that these shows are up to scratch, and they are also, we're competing now with other forms of entertainment that didn't exist a few years ago, virtual reality, interaction, all these things that can happen in one's own living room now even. We have to get people out of their houses now to come and experience something truly interactive, truly live, truly magical that they really can't get anywhere else. So what I'm going to put on in Woking is certainly a show that is up to competing with the very best home setup, and you'll realise if you come to the show, why live theatre is still the very best form of entertainment.
Are we okay to carry on a couple of minutes, or do I need to get off?
Absolutely, no, it's all good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
And tell me about your script this year. I love it when you put the jokes in for the dads that the kids titter at, but they're not quite sure why they're tittering. Will there be some of that as well?
That is the nature of panto. You always have to do that. You've got to have a humour on two levels. Humour for the mums and dads, and also the kids will really, especially the younger kids, they need the story to be very strong, and I'm really keen that comes through. They want to see the Princess Snow White meeting the seven dwarves, falling in love with the prince, and then the prince rescuing her. That's what it's about for them. And the Wicked Queen with the poisoned apple. All of these things have to be very, very clearly signposted and brought out in the story. Whereas at the same time, we have to dress that with this great traditional slapstick humour, the innuendo, all of the things that make panto such a unique and fascinating British tradition as well. So that's really important, and all of those ingredients will be there, because we mustn't forget who's buying the tickets at the end of the day, and there's nothing worse as a grown-up going to a show that you've paid out money for, to take your kids, obviously, which is you want to do, but you want to have a good time as well, and we'll make sure everybody in that theatre has the best night they can.
I'm so proud that you do it, because for proper actors to put their name to panto, I think, is a great compliment to the medium, because it takes such discipline. I wonder what it feels like to wake up on, let's say, the 12th or 13th of December, realising you've got another 7,000 shows before the 8th of January when you finish. What's that like?
Panto's not for the faint-hearted, It's really a very physical performance you have to give, because the energy's got to be up there, One producer once said that, panto is performed 2 feet above the stage. It's a heightened performance. You're bigger. It's a larger-than-life performance, and you put a lot into it. And fortunately, we never have any show days where we do 3 shows. We just do 2 shows per day, 6 days a week. But that really can take it out of you. And but every show has to be as good, if not better, than the last. You've got to deliver every time, because I do think about the audience as one person and not 1,500 people, because that's important. I think of that small child that may be coming to see the show for the very first time, never been to a panto before, or that person that may have been to loads of shows in their life, but that one person who's saved up their money This is their family outing for Christmas. You know, they look forward to this all year. I'm doing the show for them, and you know, whether or not I'm feeling up to it, I've still got to get out there and give it 110%. The show must go on, is the motto.
Have you ever stood on a stage and thought, oh, I must get myself a Fray Bentos pie, and then realise you've no idea what's going on around you, which part of the show you're in, whether you've got another one to come or whether you're on tomorrow's already?
If you're not careful, that can happen. Indeed, that can happen. And you can have some weird sort of out-of-body experiences. As a director of the show as well, I'm able to run sort of two processes at the same time. I've got this the kind of performing side of me that's the character and is actually there doing the show, and there's another part of me that's standing back and watching what's going on, not only what I'm doing but also what's going on with the rest of the show. Is the lighting right here? Was that a mistake with that cue there? There's all of this going through my mind at the same time, and I'm able to multitask even though I'm a chap. I can actually do it, which blokes can't normally do. But yeah, but then the mind can also drift onto other things as well at times, and you go into like a weird sort of autopilot mode. But that's really about your concentration. You've got to stick with what's going on because, as I've said, in panto, you never know what's going to happen. It's you know, if another actor decides they want to throw a line in they think might be funnier than what's in the script, you've got to be ready to be on the receiving end of that and pick up that cue. So it keeps you on your toes, most definitely.
And I guess the music's a big part of it as well. The kids love that. You've got to stick in something new to make it relevant today. That's what's brilliant about the best pantos. Will you be doing that this year in Woking?
Yeah, you know, we were going through the music choices, and I wanted to choose things that there's some traditional stuff, there's some throwbacks to the 80s in there, there's some bang up to date new stuff as well, and some really vintage stuff. So the real mix this year, which is unusual. I don't think a show's ever kind of mixed up quite so many different genres of music. We've got a classical piece in there as well, and some pop, and yeah. So I think you'll be intrigued and surprised at what we're doing in this show actually this year.
I don't know whether you realise, how much you loved it. Seems to me, I was at a do with you at We Will Rock You, and the love that you seem to get from the public for different reasons. Radio people love you for that. TV people love you for that. The quiz show people love you for that. The Ricky fans love you for that. Of course, the movie people. It must be great to be you walking about, because you don't seem to get any negative stuff. You don't put yourself in that arena, which is also very smart.
No, it's really nice. I mean, I just do what I do, you know. I kind of do everything to the best of my ability, and have been very lucky with the choices that I've made in my career, and have managed to be part of productions that are really well loved and have huge followings, and then some really lovely niche projects that not as many people might have seen, but nonetheless have been high quality and really well received by those who have seen them. So. Yeah, I don't go out to be sort of politically kind of different or anything, and I don't throw out any ideas that are controversial, because that's not who I am. I just kind of, you know, enjoy. I think it's about enjoying what you do. If you like it and love it, other people will get that vibe from you, you know. And yeah, I feel very lucky with the way that people kind of have embraced what I'm doing and seem to still enjoy it. You know, 35 years I've been doing it, and hopefully it will continue. I think it's also about not taking it for granted. I think as soon as you do that, you become complacent and you don't do your best work. I always feel like I'm sort of walking on a tightrope with my career, and at any moment I could slip. And I think if you keep that in your mind, you'll always do your very best work each time. It's you know, you can see entertainers and actors who become complacent, who believe the hype. You know, you believe all of this stuff people keep saying to you. Oh, you're brilliant, you're wonderful, and all this. And as soon as you do that, I think you kind of fall into this kind of sense of security that makes you lazy in what you're doing. And George Lucas said to me, he said, "Don't ever change. Always remain true to who you are, and don't believe the hype." And it was very wise words from that man, because it is entirely true, and it's how you should live your life, how everybody should live their life, really. Just kind of be who you are, who you want to be, and always just give your very best. And
well, and let's face it, when you've got kids, there's nothing more humbling than that. They'll keep your feet on the ground, won't they?
They certainly do. Yeah, they're my fiercest critics. They are. Yeah.
And very finally, I noticed you did the Comic Relief Great British Bake Off. You're good with an apple puff. Do you think there's any hope we'll get you as the presenter on Channel 4?
I was thinking about that. I was thinking it's a shame we're not going to see another Comic Relief Bake Off, because of the fact that it's now moved, and I was fortunate to be able to do that. But yeah, Paul's moved over, hasn't he? He kind of need a new... Am I the equivalent of Mary Berry? I'm not sure. I don't look quite so good in the dress.
Do you have a soggy bottom? Are you?
I'm just going to keep that to myself.
I think you'd better. Hey, listen, I can't wait to see the pantomime. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is coming to the New Victoria Theatre. A fantastic production, produced, directed and starring the brilliant Warwick Davis. You can see it from the 10th of December through the 8th of January 2017. Go and see it. Really huge production by the brilliant producers there and Family First. Thank you so much for your time, Warwick. It's really lovely talking to you.
Thank you very much. Cheers for now.
That was lovely. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed that.